And I'd like to welcome back to the channel, Frankie Muniz. Thanks for joining me today, Frankie.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
So I want to talk about obviously what happened on Friday night at Homestead. But before we do that, I want to go back a week ago because we didn't get a chance to talk. And I just wanted to kind of get your feelings, the vibe after that race, because during that race, I could sense some frustration. You even talked about being tense. You mentioned like you were sketched out because the truck was kind of coming out from underneath you in those bumps. So how did you leave that race weekend in Las Vegas? And how did you feel about it coming into this week at Homestead?
To be honest, I was really, I don't want to say demoralized, but I, I'm not sure what it was about Vegas because we spent so much time in the sim. I mean, most of our off-season testing that we did in the sim was for Vegas because we were working on a tire model. We really felt like we had perfected the truck in the sim. And I remember the first lap I went out, to practice your first time there, but the sim's pretty accurate to where you kind of know what to expect
Sure.
for the most part. And I go out and I turn into turn one and I hit that bump and it literally chucked me up the racetrack like 3 car widths. And I almost wrecked on lap one. I went, oh, I think I even came on the radio and I was like, maybe my pressures aren't up or something, but all right, here we go again. And I went lap two, same thing, almost wrecked it. And there was probably 3 or 4 times during the practice session that in 3 and 4, I almost backed it into the fence. And I'm not used to like having it where it was like that kind of inconsistent, like of where I just didn't like know what to expect.
Sure.
And it really kind of hurt me confidence wise to like push harder to drive faster when I'm already like almost losing control. So in the race, obviously you try to push, you try to be competitive, you try to, just fight. And I never got comfortable in the race car. Like I just didn't. I'm usually pretty good at like telling myself to breathe when I go into the corners, allowing my body to relax. And I drove that entire race so tense that I was so sore for days after. Like I was just so tense, I could not relax. So I haven't experienced that much in my life, you know what I mean, in my racing career, of where I can't, like I've almost wrecked or I've wrecked or things have happened and like you just go to the next lap and you fight again, right? You just keep going, you know. Um so it was really I was pretty upset because it kind of made me go, we had such a positive Daytona, we were racing really good at Atlanta, and this is the first time where I was kind of um like, oh shoot, can I do this? You know what I mean? Like you start second guessing yourself again. And and then even, showing up to Miami, and then I'll go back to I want to say one thing about Vegas. So showing up to Miami like for practice and qualifying, like I thought I was in a good mindset, but like I got out of the car after practice and I felt good. Like I didn't feel tense or anything, but I was off. Like I was just not fast. Um so anyway, going back to Vegas, sorry I talk so much, but I know you probably have questions and all that. Going back to Vegas, we went to the sim on Monday. So the Monday after to do like a post. And it's the first time we've gotten to go back to a sim and post a race that makes sense. So I went into the sim and I said, I'm going to do exactly what I was doing on the racetrack. So you can see my throttle trace, you can see my hands. Like even if I have to force it to like recreate it, I'm going to just so we have the data of what I'm talking about. And I go in and I kind of lift going into three a little bit, and I hit the bumps, and I almost wreck. I'm like, oh, I didn't really have to recreate much. You know what I mean? So I did it like 5 more times, and I end up going, it was exact to what I felt on the racetrack in the sim. But then I go, let me do it flat. Because like we were doing it flat out in our sim sessions before the race. And I do it flat, and it was great. What I'm getting at is I realized I needed to push past what I was feeling and do it flat and keep the balance of the truck more hunkered down on the racetrack to get it to feel more comfortable. And so I definitely learned a lot from Vegas to the sim and being able to post it. So I learned, all right, if I experience that again and I know it should be a certain way, I've got to push past that feeling, you know what I mean? And go faster. That makes any sense.
Right. So you talked about, you kind of had that feeling coming in to Homestead. And so I know in your practice session, you even said over your radio, I'm not driving hard enough. And so then I hear
Yeah.
on the radio before going into the qualifying lap that you had a talk with pep talk with Pedro, your crew chief. So kind of tell me what was said during that conversation.
What's funny about practice, you get such a limited amount of time. We failed tech the first time, and literally like we're pushing out to the pit lane when practice started. So I think I missed the first, I don't know, 7 or 8 minutes. And you got to jump in real fast and go, right? I didn't get to like kind of think about it. And I know that at Homestead, you get 1 lap on tires. You get 1 lap, and then you're going to fall off a second. So if you don't do it that first lap, you're going to seem slow in practice, right? On the timesheets, it's going to look slow. So I went out and I thought I was pushing. Like I thought I pushed that first lap, and they told me the time, and I was like, that sounds slow because I know what it should be, like based on sim and all that. And I kept kind of going, but the car felt good. I felt comfortable. I felt fine. I did, it wasn't bad at all. So like that's where I could go. That's on me. I just didn't push it to where it did anything. Like, if you push too hard and you push up the track and you're tight, well, okay. But if the car is 100% neutral, then I need to push harder to make it do something, if that makes sense. So, I think even during the practice, I didn't feel bad because like we ended up running decent times for how old our laps were compared to other people, right, when they were running times. So like, but I get out of the truck and I know my spotter's saying that and Pedro's saying that, like, oh, lap time wise for what your tires are, you're pretty close. Like you're not that bad. But you get out and you see the timesheet and I'm like, it's 2 seconds off. You know what I mean? Like that hurts. Like, cause you go like, I know I wasn't like super fast, but like 2 seconds on oval is an eternity. You know what I mean? Like, so it definitely like did sting a little bit, you know what I mean? And kind of knocked me back down of where you start going like, man, like what am I doing wrong? Like what's wrong with me? Why am I not going faster? So going into the qualifying lap, like I know, okay, look, the truck was good. I know what I need to do. I think I picked up over a second in qualifying compared to my practice time, which is a huge jump. But even in that, I got out and I go, there was so much more because like I did so much more than I did in practice, but it still wasn't nearly the limit. But, I had you take a giant stab at it thinking like, oh, it's going to make a big difference, but I needed to take an even giant stab. So we qualified 29th. I was still decently off time wise, but I go, look, I know when I have a rabbit out there, I'll be better in the race and just got to get to the race. Right. So yeah, so still didn't qualify as good as I want to. I don't want to be that far off, right? Ever. But definitely made improvements compared to practice for sure.
I think you're leaving out some important ingredient is you broke out in song singing Creed again before qualifying.
You're right. I did. I told you after the Atlanta race that like I try to stay lighter on the radio. And I don't know if you remember my radio on Vegas. I think back, like, I don't think I said a word other than copy and I'm uncomfortable. You know what I mean? And so once again, I go, let me get back into that mode of just like, this is fun. And I know my body knows what I'm doing. Like, I know what I need to do. I just need to do it. I don't need to overthink it. So yeah, I think I did bring out some Creed, picked up some time. And then, in the race, I don't know what it was because I had so much energy for the start of the race, which is weird because like the race started at 8 p.m., which is normally my bedtime. So I was a little worried. I was like, I don't know if this is gonna be such a late race. Like, I don't know if I can do it, but no, I had so much energy and I immediately started with just trying to be like fun and exciting on the radio, and the race started and I don't know, I felt amazing. Like I felt amazing the whole race. It's weird.
Well, but you're also forgetting something else you said on the radio.
I was nauseous.
It was your mom's birthday. It was her first time to see you at a race.
Yeah.
And let's show her why we do this. And so
Yeah.
I thought that was really interesting. So let's now jump into the race. And so that first stage, I mean, We didn't get very far. We have a first lap, first turn crash. So then after that, you get guys get restarted. And I remember you saying, you know, you felt you're pretty happy with the truck. So you
Yeah.
just admitted you couldn't commit to going harder. You were stuck on riding on the bottom and learning to go outside where they were asking
Yeah.
to go where the trucks aren't. So just talk to me about
Yeah.
that first stage.
Yeah. So the first stage, I mean, literally the initial start, there was that wreck in turn 2. And I almost got taken out because, you know, they crash into the wall and they come down and you're trying to like go like, where are they going to be? And ended up having to go in the grass. And like, I missed the 17 truck by like an inch. So that would have been an awful, you know, start to the race, but made it through. We started in the first stage. I got a really bad initial start, like tons of wheel spin. And, you know, so I was like, okay, I need to be better there. And we start and, you know, we had talked a lot about when people talk about Homestead, they always talk about the fact that like, oh, you're ripping the fence. You got to be way up against the fence to be fast and blah, blah, blah. And I've watched a lot of races from in the trucks. And like, I think back of like, I forget what year it was when Austin Hill won. He never came off the white line once, the whole race, and he won. And Majeski, even last year, he rides the bottom of 1 and 2, and he rides kind of the middle in 3 and 4. Doesn't get up near the. I know he's comfortable to do it, but doesn't need to. When you think, and the other thing about Homestead is like, it doesn't matter where you run, your tires go to garbage right away. You know what I mean? And that was something that I was talking to my engineers and Will, my engineer, and Pedro, my crew chief, about like, you know, if I'm more comfortable on the bottom and I can push it harder because I'm more comfortable on that line than trying to figure out like running up next to the fence. Like I did it a few times in practice. Like I had to do it a few times in the race. I could do it, but like I know what my truck would do on the bottom. And like that whole first stage or whatever, I think that went green, right? The rest of that
Yep.
stage from after the first caution, it felt great the whole time. And I would see everybody else running up high and I would stay down low and I would either catch them or I'd be closer to them or, you know, and trying to figure it out. So they were trying to have me go up high because like that is usually the trend of where you'd go at Homestead. And the few times I would try it, whether it be me, someone else would go to the way inside and take air off my nose. So I try to go to the middle. The truck just didn't feel as comfortable there. Like it was kind of an overall lack of grip. And I just was excited for the next lap to get back to the bottom because like it was so stuck. Like I've never felt like a rear end so solid on a race truck as I did there. And so part of the learning though was, and what I loved about this race, for 134 laps, I stayed on the lead lap A, right? Which was huge for me, my team. But for 134 laps, I was battling with guys. I was side by side. I was trying to figure out how to get by them. I was trying to figure out how to use the side draft. You know, because like, sure, I've done it a little bit, but in ARCA, no. Because I would start 6th. The guys in 5th, first to 5th, I couldn't catch. And the guys behind me couldn't really catch me. So like side by side battle racing, I haven't done a ton of in my career. And but to be in the fight and the guys that I was battling was cool, right? Like it felt good and it was fun and to try different things. I don't know. It felt so good. And here's the craziest. I know you probably have specific questions about Miami. I finished 24th in Vegas and I finished 24th in Atlanta. When I finished 24th in Vegas, I got out of the truck and I said, I don't know if I can do this, right? I like second guessed myself. I got out of the truck in Miami after finishing 24th, and you could have told me I won the race. That's how happy I was. Like, I felt so good.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
We're going to get to that because I have your ready on the end that I want to actually play so you can hear it. But I want to let's go to stage 2 just real quick. And in that stage, you moved up 3 spots on pit road. And so then we go back out and I just kind of want to reiterate what you were just talking about because, you know, they go to channel 2 or channel 1, whatever one you're not on. And they're talking about things like kept telling you to grab the quarter panel and pull the trucks back. And then you would do the opposite. And then they said, he's just not doing it right now. So you were learning the whole time, the process of learning. They talked about, hey, the truck is running really well on the bottom. And so then let's go to stage 3. And early on in stage 3, you reported a bad vibration. So kind of tell me what it felt like and what was going through your mind.
Well, I'll back up a little bit to trying to side draft and trying to pull people back. So because if people go on that high line, they have so much more momentum, right? I would almost be clear of them coming up out of like 2 or out of 4, but I knew they were going to have momentum. So my spotters like get right on their door to try to suck them back. Now, because I have such a maybe a small amount of experience, Homestead is so unique in the sense that like people are running different lines, and that momentum. Like I thought I was like where I was coming out, where I was exiting, I was leaving them basically no room to the wall. So like I'm thinking I'm right on their door because I can't see them until they're basically a little bit in front of me. You know what I mean? And then they get in front of me and I'd be like, I left the whole truck width in between us. So that's where they and so like if it took me those stages, right, to get um to where I finally got close enough to where I literally, and it is such a dramatic effect on the truck that you're side drafting when you get right up on them. It's as if you put a lasso on their truck and you pull them back, and it pushes you forward. And I finally figured out in the last stage, I figured out how to do it, and I used it a bunch and had some amazing battles, getting by guys and figuring it out, and it was super fun. But yeah, start of stage 3. Initially, right when it went green, I had a crazy vibration, and I'm bringing it up on the radio more to just to tell them in case, like, I don't know if a tire's going to explode. I haven't experienced that enough to know like what vibrations are normal and what are bad, et cetera, and et cetera. So I was just reminding them that like it wasn't getting better. My head being rested against the headrest, it was literally like I could barely see because my head was vibrating so much from the vibration. But they're telling me to just drive through it, so I did. Fortunately that caution came out. We got new tires, and immediately the vibration was gone. So yeah.
Yeah, during that caution, I remember you saying, hey, they said maybe it was some bad tires, and you said you wanted a refund. And B, I remember it was Kyle Larson who spun, right? And so your comment was, is Kyle Larson, is he ready for what I'm about to give him? So you jokingly say that, but then your spotter says, all right, get up right behind him and follow him through. So we obviously know what happens in the end. He goes up and wins the race with Corey Heim having mechanical issues. But during that moment, once you're there, you see Kyle Larson racing with you. I mean, he's obviously a champion. He's probably the greatest currently in the sport. So kind of give me a mindset of, all right, I'm with Kyle Larson. What am I trying to take from the experience racing with him right this moment? Because I know he's going to move forward.
Yeah, I definitely knew he was going to move forward. Obviously I want to see what he's doing and where he's running and where I'm losing to him. And what I will say that I remember is the restart happening. And that is, I would say, the biggest improvement I need to make as a race car driver now are my starts and restarts. There's tough. You get a lot of wheel spin, but I still like enter turn 1 and I back off a tiny bit, right? Like, cause I don't know. I think that people are going to wreck in front of me. I just see cars going 6 wide or whatever, like you kind of back off a little bit and wait for them to settle. And then I go and I catch them where I gotta stop doing that. So I remember looking for Larson after turn 2, and I think he was already 7 trucks ahead of me. You know what I mean? Like he'd already passed like 5 guys in turn 1. You know what I mean? And we're going like, well, I can't follow him. Like he's gone. And that's, so impressive. But I definitely think that's something I need to work on, and just, lack of experience and just getting better at. But yeah, are my starts and restarts.
All right. So again, in that third stage, they're talking about doing different things. And this time it's the number 2 car. I think in stage 2, it was the 42 truck. In stage 3, it was the O2 truck. And so with 25 laps to go, you pass him. And so
Yeah.
I get a sense from your team on the radio, like, hey, he's done it, right? He's finally figured it out. And you just a second ago. So tell me what it's like once you realize, like you referenced and described beautifully, the lasso, you've pulled them back and it shoots you forward. So kind of tell me what that feeling felt like, not just the actual feeling, but like the amount of confidence of, hey, I can do this.
Well, a lot of my issue too was, like go where he's not going. And the O2 was for the most part running the high line on both sides. You know what I mean? But then I think he realized I get side by side with him or almost pass him on me running on the inside every time. So he started going to the inside on certain laps. The hard part for me is, how do you know where to go? Like, you don't know where they're going until they go. But I've then committed to go to the bottom, because sometimes he would go to the middle. I still have my whole truck would have air. And, so that's something you're kind of guessing what they're going to do. You know what I mean? And I got to do a better job at, like, when I see that he's going to the bottom, like staying in that middle groove or whatever, where I would still commit to the bottom. He take all my air off, and then I lose, him by 5 car lengths, and I have to catch him again. So when I finally figured that out and got by him, it was like, yes. But then we also like pulled away from him. He was gone. He was holding us up. You know what I mean? And then, I think it was, who was it? The 26. I caught him, and we were battling side by side, and we caught the 77. And then I battled with him a bunch. And, I've raced with Andres a lot in ARCA. Obviously he's an amazing driver, and, he's won a lot of races in Mexico, the NASCAR Mexico Series, won, the ARCA championship. And it was just cool, to battle with guys that I know are good in good trucks and figure out how to get by them and do it. And I stayed committed the whole race, because there's also other times where you get towards the end of the race, and I'd gotten by him, and I know I couldn't catch the guys in front of me, or unless they made a mistake because they were pretty far ahead, and you kind of get to a comfort level. But I stayed in a high energy, high pushing mode the whole race, and it felt really, really good. It felt really good. So it was the happiest I think anybody could ever be, finishing 24th, 100%.
Well, so I'm going to play you the final radio. Okay, so here we go.
Yo, I'll say this, guys. I know it's not an amazing result, but man, that felt like the best race of my life. I felt like I was battling and had to work, guys. I loved it. Thank you, guys.
You could just sense the excitement in your voice, and you thank your crew, which is, I noted how you mentioned earlier, you started 29th last week at Las Vegas, finished 24th. You started 29th this week at Homestead. You also finished 24th, but it was a dramatically different ending in the way you felt about it and the way you expressed yourself after the race. So talk to me a little bit more about what it felt like. It was your mom's birthday. She had never been to a race. And then you were learning through the actual stages of the race, stage 2 and stage 3. And now you're passing guys and learning how to pass them and pull them back. So just talk to me about how it's triumphant, even though it was 24th, it was a win for you. So just talk to me about that.
It was, I don't know how to explain that emotion. You know what I mean? Other than to be in a battle against these top drivers, you know what I mean? And work your way by them, even to finish on the lead lap at a place like Miami, where it is a difficult track. You know what I mean? Kyle Larson won the race and didn't lap me. I think that's a huge accomplishment, if that makes sense. It might sound like a low, as a driver, I shouldn't hope for that. I should have higher expectations for myself. But it just felt incredible to figure things out and work with the team, and the truck felt really good. And I don't know. I was really, really happy with how it went. Obviously nobody fell out of the race. You know what I mean? Normally you're going to have 5, maybe even more trucks fall out. So you go, if it were normal in that sense, and we still finished, we raced who we were racing, we got a top 20 easy. And, so I just felt awesome. I felt, maybe it was also just the contrast in how I felt from the week prior, that dramatic change of comfortability in the truck and fun that I had in the race car, that felt like a massive, massive win. But it excited me again for the rest of the season, to get back to 1.5 miles and go all right, I can figure out how to get by guys. I can race with these guys. They didn't blow my doors off. I got to qualify better. I've got to be more aggressive in practice. And qualifying, and not as conservative. And I was talking to Josh, the team owner, about that, even in going I don't know what it is, because I've never had that mindset of being conservative in practice, but I don't want to wreck the truck. You know what I mean? I want to get to the race. There weren't enough trucks. No one was going home. Let's get to the race. The race is long, but I've got to change that mindset, right? I need to show up and be in attack mode from lap 1. And positive thing is like, we wrecked my main 1.5 mile truck in Atlanta and we didn't have that back yet. So I was in my backup truck, which is still a really, really good truck. But now Josh made a good point at the end of the race. He's like, you put yourself in a really good position. He's like, because now your backup truck is this truck, which is a really good, like was Lawless's best truck last year. You know what I mean? And so like, even that thought of going into practice and going like, look, if something did happen, I've got a really good truck in the hauler ready for us for the race. You know what I mean? Like, so not saying I'm going to go out there and wreck, but like, I can't be afraid of wrecking for the fact that like, I don't want to go to the backup truck. Does that make sense?
Well, it was nice to see, and hear you at the end, obviously a dramatic difference from the week before. So congratulations on the finish and what you accomplished during that race. And wish you the best of luck this coming week at Martinsville. We'll have a chat.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this, like I said, on paper, like maybe people go, oh, 24th. I mean, this was huge for me for the season. So I'm excited for the next one.
Yeah. Appreciate it, Frankie. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you. We'll see you.